Hi everyone, Brian from Bearable Traders here. It is Sunday and it's May 2nd. We're already into May here, so I hope everyone's had a good weekend. So this is when we're going to take a look at the week that was and look ahead, see what we got coming down the pipe for the coming week. We've had roughly 87% of the companies in the S&P 500 have reported. All have had, a lot of them, most of them have had really good earnings. And we've had some interesting reactions to those earnings. Some, like Microsoft, have sold off on some pretty good numbers. And of course, then you've got Facebook, which I was mentioning this week in the trading room. I would never bet against Facebook not to put up good numbers. And of course, they blew the doors off and went higher. So yeah, some interesting reactions this week to the earnings reports. Some it seemed like all the good numbers were baked in, and others were a bit of a surprise. So anyway, let's take a deep dive and take a look at what we got down coming this week in terms of earnings. We still got lots of stuff, interesting stuff coming this week. And then we'll try to figure out how to trade these things going forward. All right, just before we get going here, this is my book on Amazon, How to Swing Trade. This is my shameless plug before we get into the analyzing the markets last week and looking ahead. So if you haven't checked this out, here it is. Okay, so let's start out and take a look at what we got coming up for earnings this week. A lot of stuff here, going to be interesting. Pfizer, of course, on Tuesday. Berkshire Hathaway on Monday. Of course, that'll always be interesting to see what they have to say. Some of the interesting ones later in the week will be PayPal, Etsy, Uber, Fastly. Obviously, those that Wednesday after the close will be interesting. You got Lyft here on Tuesday after the close. Ferrari will be interesting. See what they have to say. Luxury brand, and then you got Square, PayPal Square, Moderna, and then on Friday you got DraftKings, Nikola. So yeah, lots of dispersion of interesting companies coming up on the earnings front this week. And on top of that, coupled with that, you've got a lot of different economic data coming out this week as well. I think there's a jobs number, ISM numbers, so a lot of stuff to keep the market moving this week. So let's take a look at the week that was and look through some of the indexes, some of the numbers we watch here. You can see starting out with the TLT, price of the bonds, the 20-year. I always like to keep an eye on the yields because they're going to drive certain stock indexes like the Qs. But you can see here we're in a range, which I'm going to start saying over and over again as we go through the indexes here. We seem to be in a bit of a range here. The 10-year Treasury, the price of the bond is staying pretty consistent here, which means it's not we're kind of range bound. Yields are staying roughly where they are, 1.6%, and that's a good thing if you're a bull. So you can see here, yields here on the weekly, 1.65%. And again, we just seem to be, we're still in an uptrend on this. Let's be clear about that. We have had a period of consolidation, and we were getting overbought here on the yields. Yields were getting a little extended, so we pulled back a little bit here. And it'll be interesting to see where we go from here if we just churn sideways. I'll definitely be watching to see if this breaks out. Or breaks down for that matter. If we get moved down, that'll be positive for the markets overall. You can see here the transports, we are still in an uptrend, although Friday had a bit of a down day. And on the weekly, still pushing to highs, new highs here, really overbought on the weekly, still extended there. On the transports, on the Dow, you can see here again we just seem to be range bound here. We're not moving higher, we're not moving lower, but we were getting pretty extended back here, which is what I mentioned, and I anticipated, as we see here, just a churn sideways to get back to this 20 moving average. And I guess it'll be interesting to see what it does here, whether it's going to break down from this 20 or whether we're just going to hold. And I'm finding it really hard after this earnings to see a catalyst to take us higher. But again, you just this market, you never know. It's just hard to Hard to imagine it's selling off here. Here's the weekly. Again, we're just still pretty extended from this moving average. So I think it needs to do more consolidation. And on the Qs, again, range bound consolidation on the daily. Really, we haven't made any progress since we came up into this range back here in early April. We're just churning in a bit of a range here. And again, we got really extended from these moving averages, so now we've just pulled back to them. And you can see here, when we pulled back to them here, we ended up going higher. Again, I'm not seeing what kind of catalyst that would take us higher, especially after we get through this earnings season and all the good numbers are in. And like I've said already, the Microsoft put up good numbers and they just sold off. So maybe all the good news is kind of baked in for the time being. Again, the Qs on a weekly, we actually finished down on the week, but not significantly. Volume pretty light on the weekly Qs. Not a lot of buying, not a lot of selling. The SPY, again, really tight range here. Tried to break out on the Thursday, and we ended up just pulling back and coming back in on the Friday. A bit more volume on Friday, selling. So again, it just seems like we're hesitating here. The SPY, again, off that's high from the week here, and again, sort of bit of a topping action, but I'm not really expecting a big sell-off, but certainly hesitating to go higher. And you can see here volume pretty light on that week. And the IWM. I'd say the IWM is having the most challenge here. We did try to break out this week. I would almost call this a failed breakout, because you see here's a couple of tops. We tried to break out Thursday. We looked like we were going to gap higher, and actually sold off. And now Friday was another down day. RSI is rolling over, so is the stochastics on balanced volume, and we were selling Thursday and Friday on a bit more volume than we've had over the last couple days anyway. So IWM's looking really like it's having some challenges here, and on the week, again, we're just in a range. We're range bound. You could say that this is looking like a pennant. I'm not really sure where it's going to break, but it's still trying to hold this 20 moving average. See here, we came and tested it there. And again, I'd be watching this 20 moving average, because if we start to test it and go below it, we could be in for a more significant pullback. All you can say on this weekly is the volume was pretty light on the selling. The dollar, wow, the dollar really just took off on Friday after getting back to this level where I was predicting it would probably bounce from. On Wednesday, we looked at this chart, we saw this candle, and I mentioned that it was probably going to bounce here, which it has. So we'll see what happens to emerging markets and the gold silver trade. But this, when the dollar strengthens, those tend to get hurt a little bit. You can see stochastics really overbought here, or oversold, I should say, and just turning back up here. So we might have some more movement higher in the dollar. Bitcoin just had a nice little pop here after this sell-off last weekend, and we had a big move back up here, and we're back into sort of an area where there's been a lot of congestion. You can see this volume shelf here. A lot of people have bought and sold in this area, so a break above this level would be definitely a positive for it to go maybe retest these highs up here over 60,000. And if we start to drop below again, could be a test back down to the 50,000 level for all the cryptocurrency traders. Okay, let's go over some positions I've got right now just really quickly. These are just my positions. Ford sold off on earnings. I still had some calls, some January 22 calls. They went out of the money actually, or at least they went red on this sell-off, and so I've added some back here just because I thought, there's probably the selling is done. They are 10 calls, so they're well in the money, and again, it's a longer term hold for me. So I did buy some back. Gold's really been selling off here. I just still have a small position in it. I'm looking for it to pull back here. I'm thinking it's probably going to hold this moving average. I just want to have some gold in my portfolio. right now. I still think it's probably going to be a good play later in the year. LAC, I have a little bit of that. Got it on this breakout. Now it's pulling back again. It's kind of disappointing. I kind of figure aluminum or lithium is with all the batteries and EV cars coming. I kind of figured this had some more legs in it. So we're just hanging on to it, but I'll stop out of it if it starts to drop below, say, 1350. TIGR, bought this on a breakout and still holding on to it. It still looks like it wants to go higher. Had a good day on Friday, and still looks like it's going to try to break out here. Again, I'll sell it if it looks like it's going to close below 20. VIAC, I've got some of that. I think they're reporting this week, which I might hedge that my position with some options and maybe sell some upside calls. I might get called away, but if it drops, then I'll be able to collect some premium on those. I still think it maybe has some legs higher here. And Willow is a Canadian stock I'm just holding for the long term. Now let's take a quick look at some stocks I'm watching for the coming week. I found this on a scan, Avid. It looks like it's going to break out here, and this is reporting, I think, on Tuesday, so I'm going to probably take a wait-and-see approach on it. I don't like to play stocks through earnings, but I like the way the volume is starting to build on this, and I'm liking the setup. It kind of looks like it's already broken out here a bit, so I'll be looking for a bit of a pullback, but might, depending on what it does in earnings, keep an eye on that one. DBD was one I was watching from a watch list Sunday and Wednesday when I posted my latest, and I actually do have an entry on that. I should move that to the actives. So we had a bit of what I expected would happen. We had a breakout on the Wednesday. We had the pullback on the Thursday, coming back to where we broke out from, very typical pattern, and a bit of an update on Friday. So I'll be using this area here, this 1460 level, as an area where I'll stop out, where the breakout isn't going to work. But hopefully we'll get a nice move back up to, say, in this over 17 on this. DraftKings are reporting on Friday before the open, so I'm just going to keep an eye on that one. It's really been acting badly. It has lost, I was talking about this earlier, head and shoulders pattern. It has lost this neckline here. It's sort of hanging around below it. Again, just be careful because it is reporting at the end of the week. Fuel cell. Again, this was one I was hoping that would start to break out. It actually looked like it was breaking trend here, but if you draw a line here, it actually probably came up to that trend line and rejected from it. So keeping an eye on it. If we can break out above the 20 moving average around 1080, then it could be a change in trend there. Financial, FCB, it's not much happening there. Again, GDX, just keeping an eye on gold. LABU looked like it was going to break out, but again, just hit this prior level here and rejected. So we pulled back a bit. Again, this could be a bit of a test and then a pullback and then a move higher. So I'll be watching that one on Monday. LAC we already talked about. Plug, again, this is this trend line I was talking about from FCell. You can see here Plug actually did break this trend line. And you can see here it came back and tested it. Again, pretty classic pattern. Breakout, come back, test the trend line. Having trouble saying that. And it looks like it might actually want to try to go higher here. So you can see here volume's not really overly impressive, but the stochastics are looking good on it as well. So one to keep an eye on. Plug. Peloton, I'm going to play this later in the week, I think, using options. It is reporting on Wednesday after the close, I believe, or maybe at the open. I have to check that. But again, this is, I'm lumping this into the Netflixes and the Pins of the world. These are all COVID plays. They've done really well during the COVID thing. But when you when you listen to the earnings calls, Netflix and Pins, all talking about how they pulled a lot of their revenue and customer acquisition forward with the COVID, and now they're of course seeing a bit of a pullback, not as many subscribers, that kind of stuff. Now that we're opening up, and they've already pulled all those customers forward into this into their earlier earnings. So I'm thinking maybe Peloton could be setting up here for another down drop. So we'll see how that plays out on Monday and Tuesday, but I'm thinking of maybe writing some call options on that one. And USO. Again, just keep an eye on oil because it looked like it tried to break out here. Oil does trade very technically, so of course it's not surprising it stalled out here. Had a bit of a reversing candle and then down day on Friday. So I'll be watching to see what oil does if we can actually break out above this 44.50 level. So that's a wrap, everyone. Again, we're just just taking things easily here because it just seems like we're trading in a range. Breakouts aren't necessarily working as well, and we just seem to be fairly range bound right now. So just waiting for some good setups, keep positions light. I'm not expecting a big sell-off on anything, but I'm not expecting any kind of big moves higher in the short term. So again, we got a lot of earnings coming up this week, so it'll be interesting to see how some of those companies react. But again, over 80% of them have been reporting surprises to the upside. So watch for that to continue, but don't always count on that as being a guarantee that the price is going to go higher because we've seen mixed results on stock prices after reporting good earnings. So, and here's the way things are looking right now for the morning. You can see here we're up a little. All on the indexes are indicating a higher open. Some of the commodities they're all higher as well. So yeah, we'll see how a lot can happen between now and then, as we always say. So 8 o'clock, if you're live on YouTube, we will be starting out with the Engineering the Markets with Jared, and then 8:30 pre-market show with Norm and Carlos live on YouTube, and then of course trading the market at 9:30. So hopefully we'll see you all there. Have a great rest of the evening, everybody. We'll talk to you all later, and hopefully see you in the morning. Bye for now.